Imagine waking up one morning, not knowing that in any instant your normalcy of life would be changed. Imagine losing everything you once held dear. Imagine working your whole life to build something that was destroyed in one day. Imagine being a victim of the 2010 and 2011 monsoon floods of Pakistan, where approximately 20 million people were affected by the worst such disaster the UN has faced, where homes were destroyed and people were killed. There is an urgent need to rebuild and restore the hopes and dreams of those people affected. In this episode of Stand for Pakistan, we'll be speaking with Charlie McCormick, the recently retired CEO and president of Save the Children, Erica Thrasher, the Associate Director of Asia Operations, and Sohail Sumra, a member of the Fairfield University student body, to uncover the effect of the monsoon floods and to know what we as students can do to make a difference. Stand for traveled from Fairfield's campus to the Save the Children headquarters in Westport, Connecticut, to get a better understanding of what has happened and the needs that have been met through some global actors responding to this humanitarian crisis.
How long have you been working with the nonprofit?
I've been back as president of Save the Children for the past 19 years.
In regards to Pakistan, do you feel like there's been an adequate response by the global community to what happened with the monsoon floods of this year and last year?
Well, I think the biggest issue is with the government of Pakistan and the various provincial governments in Sindh and Punjab and the northwest frontier. Unfortunately, the government of Pakistan and the provincial governments in the affected areas in general have not really stepped up to the plate. Now they've got a lot on their minds. It's a poor country. They have civil strife and terrorism and so on and so forth. So, you know, they've got a rationale for the difficulty, but they just simply haven't done much. So that has meant that the international community has really had to do the bulk of the work. And I'd give the international community high marks.
In regards to your experience with working with humanitarian crises, what would you define it as being?
Well, we can quote a lot of statistics. I think the numbers that are commonly used are 20 million people who were affected by it and 1/5 of the population. But that really doesn't do it justice until you look at the amount of people affected by the tsunami in Indonesia and throughout Southeast Asia in 2004, the Haiti earthquake and the Pakistan earthquake. All of those events combined is on the same scale as the Pakistan monsoon floods from last year.
Were you aware of this crisis prior to hearing the discussion of this now?
Yes, I was well aware of the monsoon floods that happened last year in 2010. I first got wind of it from my mother, who actually called me and told me to look at the news. I learned more about it through the New York Times, through watching CNN, different news outlets.
While nonprofit organizations like Save the Children make a difference, students can also have a great impact on the global community as well. Let's see how one student made a positive contribution to those affected through his local mosque in Connecticut to Pakistan.
Can you name some of the programs that Save the Children has done?
Yes, we have a pretty standard set of activities. You have to provide food because people have had their crops swept away and sometimes even their land swept away. And finally, for children, you need to reestablish education. First, it might be in tents and so on, and then with the rebuilding of schools and reestablishment of education. So basic necessities and shelter, medicine and healthcare, food and nutrition, and basic education, those four.
And what effect has this had on children and the youth in the area?
It's traumatic. They have lost homes, they've lost schools, they've lost their way of life, their normalcy. Parents are stressed. It really has had a very large, not only physical effect on them, but also a psychosocial effect.
The first thing that me and my family did was our local mosque ran a clothing drive, which they sent the clothes over to Pakistan. So initially when the floods hit, that was one of the biggest things we did.
As students a part of an evolving and globally connected world, what are our obligations to our neighbors? Will you choose to stand with and stand for the victims of the monsoon floods?
How can students on their campus bring more awareness to humanitarian crises like Pakistan? What's a way to make a difference?
Well, I think you have to be selective. So I think you can't just be talking about one crisis one week and another crisis another week and so on and so forth. So personally, I'd suggest people take one or two in the whole year. Focus on those, really come to understand the country, work with faculty on incorporating those issues into their courses. Maybe do volunteer service work in those one or two countries. Since Fairfield is a Jesuit university, most of these countries have other Jesuit universities, whether it's Nicaragua or India or whatever, so that's another way you could link, meaning you could have exchange programs with students in some of these places. Fairfield students could go there for 10 days, and students from Nicaragua or India could come to Fairfield for 10 days. I mean, I think there are lots of ways to link with these issues, but I wouldn't just chase after the TV crews. I would pick an issue and really work on understanding it. Spend the whole year. Maybe even one issue would be best. One country, one place.
First of all, reach out to the agencies that are there, that are helping. There's lots of different websites that are up that speak to not just Save the Children's programs, but Mercy Corps, Islamic Relief, or there's a variety of different actors, and find out what they're doing and how they're helping. And in events such as this, the emergency responses, it's not Save the Children acting solo. There is a very organized, very cohesive approach to the needs of the entire country.
I think one of the biggest things that we can do as students is raise awareness. A lot of people still don't know about what happened, or those that do know don't really fully grasp how devastating it was for the people of Pakistan and how long-term a lot of the damage that's been done is. It's going to take a lot of effort to be able to restore the country back to where it was before and even improve on after that. So the biggest thing right now should be awareness, bringing about more information to people, giving it to students, and spreading information about what happened so that people can feel motivated to do something about it. While the floods happened a year ago, and the second floods happened just a couple months ago, the country, the region are still affected, and there's still everyone from children to old people who are struggling daily to survive. And so part of who I am as a person makes me feel that everyone should go to help those in need. And so my biggest message, my biggest goal would be to get as many people involved as possible to help support the people who have been devastated.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Stand for Pakistan. And until next time, who will you choose to stand for?